Germans seem to have some kind of a tick when it comes to thrash metal and the metal related to thrash, be it speed metal, traditional heavy metal with kind of a trashy vibes. And this is exactly what we're talking about here today with Diabolic Night. This one is the first album by the band called Beyond the Realm. And this was already released in 2019. So here you have it in a nice looking digi sleeve and then jewel case, which just seems to pop up in a couple of pieces. I'll try to get this booklet removed and show it to you. This is actually pretty cool cover image, and as you can see, it's kind of dark with castle and some angels fighting there, kind of a role-playing like image, if you will. Anyway, like I said, this is kind of a thrash related, but maybe even more speed, heavy metal stuff, and that with swords and kind of a black metallic output. And why I say it German people related to this is that this reminds me of another German band called Disaster with E, and with people who are familiar with that kind of remember that they have been doing their kind of a melodic black trash thing, and this is not too far from that, but it also reminds me of this ex-Australian, nowadays European band Destroyer 666, which also incorporates heavy metal, thrash metal, black metal, and even some death metal with its music. Now this is quite like Diabolic Night theoretically speaking, but this is also different. And then one name popped right into my head when I was listening this for a few times, and as it is, Norwegian band Nocturnal Breed came to my mind with its kind of a black thrash thing, which is very, very catchy, and in a way also the very same kind of old school style, if you will. Now, what Diabolical Night is actually doing is that they are very, very melodic. They are more heavy and speed metal than being black metal. Actually, if it wasn't that those kind of screamy vocals, people might not even think there are any kind of a black metal related to begin with. But it's still there, and saying that this is pure heavy metal or speed metal, I think it's a little bit misleading. Now, the thing here is that this album is very melodic driven, so it's all about with those melodies and kind of a fast tempo and whatnot, and I think it works very nicely. But those melodies are not the level of bands like Destroyer 666, Dissect and Disaster, Nocturnal Breed, but they are, I think, getting there after a couple of albums maybe. Diabolic Night is kind of an easy album to listen to. You are right away taken by these melodies and you start banging your head and fist and whatever. But when you finish the album, you probably won't remember any of those things like, hey, I really like that chorus part, or I really like that melody coming from 2 minutes and 7 seconds in the track, whatever. But it's more like you have this melodic feeling, and it's quite nice. It's kind of old school, but it's still missing something. And that something is the one magical factor which we have when we're talking about so many old school heavy metal bands, thrash metal bands, and so forth. That is, think bands like Iron Maiden, which is very melodic to begin with. And when you figure out that, okay, there are songs like AC's Higher Trooper or who knows what, you instantaneously kind of remember those really catchy melodies and chorus parts. And those kind of elements are very important when you create this kind of music. Now, those also live by the very melodic vocals, which then again Diabolic Night doesn't exactly have. So while they have these nice riffs and melodies and they have this kind of energetic tempo and whatever, they are lacking the magical factor that comes from the vocalist itself. Because when they have these kind of a black melodic vocals, you are kind of in desperate in needs of doing the extra work with your guitars, bass and drums. And if you don't have it, you really cannot compete with bands such as Iron Maiden or Judas Priest. Now, that is to say that while Diabolic Night is easy to listen, they do lack some memorable moments. I think it's very safe to say that this is a very decent album. It's kind of nice and so forth. But if I were to compare this to, say, with the Nocturnal Breed one, which I mentioned earlier, I would say this is picking the shortest or shorter straw. And while I kind of like this, I don't find it that great. It's easy to listen, it's easy to enjoy, surely, but is it memorable? Is it one of those future classics I will be coming back for? Not likely. However, if you are not allergic to melodic speed, heavy thrash, black combo, definitely give this one a go. It's already out, and it's included with this nice digi sleeve jewel case in case you're interested in physical copies. So go check out the samples and figure out yourself. That's the only really decent thing to do.